What I have in front of me is my old Dakota Fire Pit, and I'm going to share with you shortly why I actually ended up covering it up and hiding it. But in an instance where you're in a non-permissive environment and you need to try and survive in that environment, making an open flame in order to warm your shelter is often not possible. By making a few simple adjustments to my Dakota Fire Pit, I can harness all of the heat that comes out of this hole for my shelter. I'm not going to lose body heat by getting up in the night and stoking my fire. So in this video I'm going to build a shelter behind my Dakota Fire Pit, and I'm going to show you how you can harness the heat even from an underground fire to warm yourself if you can't make an open flame. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. So why did I break down my Dakota Fire Pit that I worked so hard to build? Well, firstly, it's not actually completely broken down. The tunnel and the channel underneath is still actually perfectly intact. I've just gone and hidden it as good as I can. But you can see if you've done any amount of counter tracking or combat survival or camouflage and concealment, you'll see that there is a disturbance here. So it's not completely hidden. I could still find it. It just does not look like there's been an open fire here. And that is rule number one of any environment where you are trying to remain concealed, is do not leave sign behind. Now I could have concealed this a bit better. I could have thrown some more leaves and stuff on here, but if you're making a fire in an environment where you're not supposed to be, perhaps someone's looking for you, or perhaps you're just moving through enemy territory, or maybe there's some other reason, and you don't necessarily have to be the cause of the trouble to be in the trouble. But in that instance, whenever you break up a camp, you remove any sign that you were there at all. You don't want to start leaving a trail for someone to follow you. Okay, for my purposes, I don't like people knowing where I move in the bush. I don't want anybody to be alerted to the fact that I am at any point in the wilderness because I move alone. So for safety purposes, I generally go and cover up whatever I've dug or created or built in the bush. All right, so let me get back to restoring this fire pit. All the stones that I've built in the underside are still there. I've literally just stacked these rocks on top and thrown a bit of leaves on here so it looks like it's old. Then I'm going to set up a nice shelter behind here, and I'll show you how you can harness the heat from this fire even though it's concealed and underground. With my hole now dug again and cleared out and my fire pit built, I can set up a shelter. I'm going to do it just here between the trees, and then I can show you how I'm going to use this fire pit to warm my shelter through the night. I'm going to bring the top right over my Dakota Fire Pit, and that's an advantage of the fire pit, is because your flame is actually underground. You can actually build your shelter right over it. And these rocks, I realized last time when I had a fire going in it, they really heat up a whole lot. But I'm also going to adjust them a little bit. So I've rebuilt it as it was before, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to change it in order to harness even more heat from this fireplace. All right, so need a bit of paracord and a tarp shelter. When you set up your tarp shelter, you obviously want to sort of be concealed. Best is to actually have some foliage in the background or some sort of landscape feature that helps you to conceal your shelter. If you've got two rocky outcrops, it's nice to be able to conceal your shelter between those rocky outcrops. If you didn't bring tent stakes, don't fret, you can make some quickly and easily in the wilderness. You want a fork stick, something like this, and this is just going to be the hook at the top of your tent stake that keeps your tarp down. Obviously this needs to be thin enough to actually go through your tarp. So I can actually use this fork over here. Might be a little bit better for me, for my purposes. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it off here so that sits above the ground, and this gets sharpened or that gets sharpened, whichever one I think is a little bit stronger. Alright, so I've got that. So I reckon this is smoother. It's going to go through my top a little better. That's all right, it doesn't have to be pretty. Okay, this one I'm going to chop off, this one I'm going to sharpen. And then this part is going to go into the ground as a tent stake. Okay, and then that I'm just going to sharpen with my knife. The more regularity you create in the wilderness by chopping things flat like that, the more obvious it is that you were in the area. So try not to leave too many chopped branches and things like that. This, for example, doesn't betray my presence here, but that does actually. So I'm starting to create a tent stake here. If I had a fire going already, I could go and fire hard in this. Don't make it too brittle or too easy to break, so I'm just going to use that now to pin my tarp down, and I'm literally just going to peg that into the ground like that, and I've got 10 stakes. Now that my tarp shelter is set up, I can go ahead and build a bed for myself. Now your bed is almost just as important as the shelter itself. If you're lying directly on the ground, you're going to lose a lot of heat through conduction to the ground, so it's a good idea to make yourself a forest bed as well. And then in the process, I'm going to try and plug as much of that ventilation at the back there as I can. And the wind's picked up a little bit, so it's feeding nicely into my conduit for the fire pit. All right, you ready? We're going to make a bed. As quickly as they can be. Pine needles are actually quite great. They are nice and springy. There's a nice pocket of air that gets captured between your bed and the pine needle, so if you've got like a tarp that you can put on top of this, then it doesn't matter how prickly the foliage is. It is better to just get finer things. They trap air better, so pine needles are going to make a great bed. So I am just about done building my bed. There we go. Now I can place a tarp right over this bed. See, the wind's playing a game. You don't need to actually have a sleeping bag, depending on how cold it is also. All right, so this tarp's got some silver lining on the inside here. I'm going to place the silver right against my body. I want to reflect my body heat back to me. I will bivvy on the inside of this shelter here. And that also solves the problem of any ventilation from the back, because my fire is going to warm me from the front. You're going to see just now how we can adapt this Dakota Fire Pit in order to gain the most heat on the inside of the shelter, and me sleeping on the inside of this over here is going to retain my body heat too. So I'm creating a microclimate inside a microclimate, and I can use my bag and any of my gear to sort of close up the sides. I can take some debris from the area and close up the sides as well, and just give myself a little bit more concealment and a little bit more closure from the elements and from the wind. Right, you'll see this is quite low. You can go even lower with it. I'm doing this way so that I've got a little bit of space to sit and to cook or to eat or to do whatever. And I am still undercover, but I'm nice and close to my fire pit here. And because the flame is underground, I'm not going to burn my tarp or anything like that. So usually you'd want your fire to be about 1 meter to 1.5 meters away from your tarp. Mine's much closer than that because I'm going to close it up in a moment, and I'll show you now. I can actually bring my fire closer to my shelter. By making a few simple adjustments to my Dakota Fire Pit and the layout of my rocks here, I can harness all of the heat that comes out of this hole for my shelter. So I'm going to remove this rock, and this one's going to go flat. This one is lovely at the back here, and it also supports my structure there. Even though it sits right over the weak part of my pit, because it's sideways and the pit is actually quite narrow on the inside. That's nice support. All right, and from here on, I just need a little bit of height. Okay, it's amazing what you can come up with if you just do a bit of thinking. Right, like that. More. nicely. Alright, so I'm also trying to sort of seal off all the little holes on the side, which is quite difficult if you're just working with rocks. Alrighty. I'm just opening that space up nicely. Again, using sticks that don't have bark on them smoke less. These ones that have bark on them will smoke a little bit more. I'm not making a big fire, I'm starting it small, and I'm just going to feed it until I've got enough embers. Okay. And I'm not making a massive tinder bundle either. I don't want to alert anyone to my presence in the environment. Okay. And I've gotten a little bit of fatwood shavings. I can just break up a touch. And 1 or 2 tries should do it. If you're struggling, then you probably haven't processed your tinder bundle enough, or your materials are wet, which does happen. That's okay. Right. Okay. And I can take my flaming tinder bundle, put it in my hole. I know this stuff burns very well, so I'm just going to feed it. In order to keep it from smoking, obviously I don't want to alert anyone to my location or to my presence, so I'm just feeding it really slowly. You can start with little twigs. I can close this top bit up to give me a complete enclosure. I have now effectively created an oven that feeds heat into my shelter, very much the same as a chimney pipe does. I can go and stoke it from that side, but because it's nice and open here, I can throughout the night just stoke it from here also. The other advantage of this is if you've ever slept cold at night, you know that getting up to stoke your fire means that you're losing heat from your shelter. Because you're getting up, you're losing body heat because you need to go and fetch wood and things and then stoke the fire. But if your fire is like this, nice and close to your shelter, then you just put all of your fire making materials right next to you, and you don't have to get up in the night to actually go and stoke your fire or to find materials. So make sure that you've got enough. This is not nearly enough. I'd need probably about a massive stack here through the night, but I can systematically start adding some larger logs to here that will burn for longer too. It's looking great. And now this is going to heat up. Okay, all of these rocks are going to heat up, and it's going to be a wonderful, it's like a stone stove for my shelter. If I can have a flame out, that's great, because it's going to heat all of these rocks. You'll be surprised actually how the ground actually heats up. I just need to keep this going throughout the night and I'll be perfectly fine. I've got a small flame going here, and that's perfectly enough. Right, there is always a risk of root running fires with these fire pits, so make sure that you've removed as much of the roots as you can, and you can stoke it from this side. That's perfectly fine. All these rocks are heating up really nicely, and this is going to keep my shelter going all through the night, nice and warm. I actually am sitting here getting hot because I'm so close to this fire and these rocks are really hot. Because I've now got this mylar tarp, I can literally get into my tarp and bivvy right by my fireplace. The best is roll up the corners, roll them inwards, and pin them with your feet. And from this shelter, I can stoke my fire through the night because I can reach it right here. So I have an enclosure above me that's going to retain more heat from the fire. So I've created an environment that's warmer under the top, and you really can feel it. And then I'm going to cover my body also so that I don't lose body heat. And I can stoke my fire right in my bed. I don't have to get up. I'm not going to lose body heat. And sometimes we make a whole lot of plans and only some of our plans succeed. But that's the beauty of coming out here and trying different things. If you've slept cold a couple of times, you very quickly learn how to ensure that you don't end up sleeping cold again. And Proverbs 16:3 says, commit all your works to the Lord and your plans will succeed. If you submit everything to Him and if you're acting according to His will, then He's going to help you. And it's nice to know that the Creator of heaven and earth is on your side, helping your plans to succeed. I hope that you found value here and that you're going to sleep warm the next time you're bivvying out in the wilderness. Remember to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. You might even find a hint or two of what's to come to the YouTube channel in future. And until the next time, live ready.